Hello, Carla. It's great to see you.
You too. Happy New Year.
Pardon me?
Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year to you. I'm so glad we have this chance to check in again about your leadership journey. So we were just chatting that you've reached the 6-month mark, which is exciting in your new role. And I wanted to hear, what has happened in recent weeks or last couple months that, you've had to deal with, manage, as you've, been delving more into your new station.
Yep. Quite a lot actually, and it's 6 months in a COVID year, feels like 6 years almost. So I think there's been a lot of challenges, and with most of the challenges, it comes from human capital, right? So I had identified at the very start we needed to have a human resource person here in house, and it's hard to justify, I think, for an organization, our staff with our size, with maybe 35 full-time employees. So it was I kept going back and forth. Can we justify a full-time position, or should we make that investment? But there was a lot of things that I really felt that we weren't all in with our procedures, and we just needed to get ourselves in better shape. So that was the first thing. And I ended up being very lucky in getting someone on board for 20 hours a week who has been amazing and does a lot of training as well. So has been such a good member of the team for the staff to have that go to. We had someone as a CFO work in HR as well, but it was more of an expectation rather than that was the person's expertise. So it's been really good in having that. So I went from, that was the first positive one. And then I had my assistant, she handed in her resignation. So that was quite early on, which is interesting because that's your gatekeeper, right, between yourself and the board, and you're starting to get to know the board. But at the same time, do you want to be really chasing them for scheduling meetings and things like that? So that was pretty interesting because I waited. I did advertise the job, but it took a little bit of time in finding the right person as well, because as you know, it's you want to find somebody that you'll click with and will understand you, but has the right personality as well to deal with board members. And finally, just as of this week, actually, I had someone start as of yesterday, and she's already hit the ground running. So that's been exciting. And then I had, it's all HR related, I guess. The CFO handed in a resignation. I'm trying not to take it personally, but it was, I think she wanted to move actually outside of the area. And we then started to work with NIDA and we now outsourced Anita for the next year anyway, until we find someone that can come in-house in the next 6 months or so. So some big changes there in that an assistant and CFO and HR, they were the big kind of challenges, but ones that I already see a positive shift. And it's great when you sit back in meetings and you listen to the HR person speaking to the rest of the team about communication style or whatever it might be. It could be procedures and policies, and actually making sure that we are communicating everything that we do, whether it is we just updated our whistleblower policy and our anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policy. Rolling those out, it's one thing getting it signed off at the board level, but actually having it, talking to staff about here's what it actually means and here's what the steps are, I think is important to make sure that we're transparent and not just signing it off at the board level and then dropping it into a handbook that no one reads. So we've been going through a lot of that sort of training and coaching. As well as that, I'm working with a company called Work Wisdom, and they are working on the communication and culture of the organization. So it's actually been really good and a healthy discussion with all staff members, and it's all virtual, but it has been a great way to just jump straight in and try to better understand each other and different communication styles and being more thoughtful to where someone else might be coming from. So although that person might have said no, they weren't saying no, never. They're saying no, just not right now. So we can continue the dialogue. So that's been a big thing for me as well, as working on the culture and trying to understand each other a little bit better.
So That's a lot. I
Yeah.
mean, you have done a lot in a short time and also experienced a lot. And as you were talking, I was remembering a conversation I had with a woman who is aspiring to leadership and possibly, a CEO role eventually. I think she's probably 5, 6 years away from that at this point. And she told me that, she felt she needed to have a COO or a vice president experience under her belt for a while before she took that next step. And listening to you share losing your CFO, losing your assistant, onboarding an HR person for the first time, that's a lot. And you're really calm about it. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about how your experience having been a COO possibly helped you deal with these big changes as you started this job.
It's so interesting because I look back on my perspective as the COO, speaking to the CEO at the time and saying, well, why don't we do this? And why are we not moving quicker? And, it seemed so much easier when you're in that position. I certainly learned how to be patient and try to not be, don't react too quickly. I was very lucky in that I had a CEO that was very much encouraging me to take more responsibility, but to really be involved with every aspect of the organization, and gave me a lot of responsibility and opportunity. So when it came to whether it's a HR issue or part of setting up a diversity task force, for example, the involvement and the responsibility within that was just amazing. And it did certainly set me up then for this role, because that was one of the first things that I did when I came here was, we didn't have any diversity conversations per se. We had a statement on our website, but there wasn't any communication as such. So it was one of the first things that I did. And that was through the experience that I was given in the last role as COO to partner with some board members as well as CEO at the time in that one in particular. But the same with HR issues. It was always, put the brakes on and contact an attorney and talk it through, think about it before we act on anything. So it definitely, I have a tendency to be a little bit of a bull in a china shop, but it definitely helped me kind of put the brakes on and really think decisions through. And some aren't in your control as well. So I think having that experience of these things happen, so how you deal with it's really important. And you can mull over things in the evenings when you're going home and really try to dissect what you want from them. But at the end of the day, you just have to start afresh the next day and think about the next step and what the best way forward is.
So you've made it sounds like some really positive investments in the organization related to this culture training and better understanding of different staff members' personalities, communication styles, introducing, DEI processes. So has that, or I guess the question is, how has that helped, or has it helped as your staff is still navigating? We're all living in COVID land still, so mostly virtual work, as well as everything that our country, but also our industry has been going through with racial and social justice. How has that been impacted by some of the culture work you've been doing?
I think it's conversation, it's communication, it's ensuring that we are communicating with each other and talking about anything that we're concerned about, or noticing something with another employee, or for example, next week, we're already thinking about, potentially within this area, is there going to be anything that we have to be concerned about? Because we do have some staff members coming in. Should we be saying, actually, during the inauguration, should we maybe ask all staff members to just stay at home, because we just want to be mindful and safe? So it's been interesting, I think, in communicating to ensure that we know that we are looking out for each other and over communicating. It's some staff members, as I say, are in, most days, but others are at home and might not really have anybody to talk to. So I've tried to conduct more staff meetings as well as the culture training. So I think communication and transparency, that's the two big things for me that I've been focusing on. And I'm really trying to ensure that people know, and it's a fine line as well. People know that you're there to listen, but also there's only so much that you as one person can take on. So it's trying to, to balance that and ensure that you can have that communication with team members, but also there's others there that can help. I think there's just a lot of fear at the minute, just in uncertainty and not knowing for the country what's next. Or I think everyone was just disappointed and shocked last week and upset. So it's really, I think we just have to be very patient with each other and just allow time and not focus solely on, okay, well, you're not going to meet your sales goal this month, so you have to get back. It's just, I think we just have to be a lot more thoughtful and considerate for each other.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And as I watch friends on social media and colleagues posting about how everything that happened on January 6th has affected them, there's a lot of comments like, are you working? I'm not working. I can't work. I can't focus. And
things into perspective.
Yeah, I think everybody it's our country, it's our democracy, and everyone's been affected by it. So my next question is, as you're in a new year, it's your next 6 months, you'll be in 6 months reaching your year mark on the job. What are you looking forward to, and what are you concerned about as you go into the new year?
It's a great question. So there's one thing that I have started to do, and it's a personal thing for myself. And it's a bullet journal, but basically it's a journal method of writing things down. And for me, there's so many things going on in my mind. And as much as I want to be able to sit down and read a book, I can't absorb the information because I've got too many other things that I'm thinking about. So I started to do this where I'm every morning or the night before, I'm just writing down what I have to do the next day. And there's something so refreshing and a big sense of accomplishment when you start to check those things off the list. And it could be something simple like remembering to follow up with someone on an email, or it could be something like wanting to make your bed every day, whatever it is. But there's definitely, that's a personal thing that I have found. Writing things down it's really helped me kind of move things from my head that are, that's jumping around in there. I've been pleasantly surprised with membership and individual giving internally, as in we are doing pretty well in that area. I think what I want to focus on in the next 6 months is development as a whole, and just looking at our organization and what's working well and what's not working, and some areas that we could improve. We had, unfortunate, really a difficult time last year, as many did, but our major gifts officer had passed away at the age of 35. So that was a lot for us to deal with as well. And he was a very lively, a big personality. So that was huge for the staff here. And there's certainly a void there. So I'm trying to take my time on, I don't want to jump in and replace that position per se, but I need to think about, what's the best way to handle that. And I'm just taking my time on that front. So definitely the development, the fundraising side is a big focus area for me.
Well, I'm very sorry for your loss, and that is a lot. When you think about what you've experienced as a new leader in 6 months, you should just take a deep breath and pat yourself on the back because you're doing a good job regardless. And then when you consider all these challenges, even more so.
Yeah, thank you.